I never expected to be fired in front of the entire office. One moment I was sitting in a meeting with my boss and HR, and the next moment he was accusing me of something I didn't do. He thought he had complete control of the situation. He thought I would just sit there, embarrassed, and accept it. What he didn't know was that I had already seen the emails, and I had recorded the entire meeting. The moment he told everyone, "You're fired," he believed the story was over. But that was actually the moment everything started falling apart for him. This is a true-style workplace revenge story about toxic bosses, office politics, betrayal, and the moment karma finally hits back. If you enjoy dramatic office stories, corporate revenge, and shocking workplace twists, this story is for you. Watch until the end to see how one recording completely changed everything. Subscribe for more workplace drama and revenge stories. Nyo I Dung. My boss thought humiliating me in a department meeting would make him look powerful. Instead, it ended his career. Because 5 minutes later, the conference room door opened, and HR walked in with a folder full of evidence he never thought anyone would see. And the worst part for him? Every lie he had just told about me was still glowing on the projector behind him. I worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized marketing agency in Chicago called Greenridge Digital. If you've never worked in marketing, a project coordinator is basically the person who makes sure chaos doesn't happen. Designers have deadlines. Clients change their minds. Campaigns launch at weird hours. Budgets shift. Someone has to keep track of everything. That someone was me. I had been there for 3 years when all of this happened. My job performance was solid. I was organized, clients liked me, and most of the team trusted me to keep projects moving smoothly. For a long time, the department actually felt like a good place to work. Then Daniel Mercer became our new director. At first, everyone thought he was great. Daniel was the type of manager who impressed executives immediately. Confident voice, perfect posture, always well-dressed. The kind of guy who could walk into a meeting and sound like he had everything under control. During his first week, he held a team meeting. "I believe in accountability," he told us. Great teams succeed because people take ownership of their work. At the time, that sounded reasonable. But over the next few months, I realized something about Daniel. He loved accountability, just not for himself. The first strange moment happened during a campaign planning meeting. I had spent almost 2 weeks building a detailed campaign timeline for a major client. Every phase was mapped out: content production, influencer outreach, ad launches, analytics reports. The morning of the meeting, Daniel stopped by my desk. "Emily, can you send me the campaign roadmap?" he asked. "Sure," I said. "Just want to review it before we present." That sounded normal, so I emailed it to him. Later that afternoon, the team gathered in the conference room. Daniel connected his laptop to the projector and started presenting. Slide 1, Slide 2, Slide 3. Every slide looked extremely familiar, because it was my plan, not just the ideas, the structure, the language, even the examples. He walked everyone through the campaign strategy like it was something he had personally designed. When he finished, one of the senior executives nodded. "Nice work, Daniel." Daniel smiled modestly. "Team effort," he said. But somehow, the team didn't include me. After the meeting, my coworker Olivia leaned over my cubicle wall. "Wait," she whispered. "Wasn't that your roadmap?" I gave a small shrug. "Yeah," she stared at me. "Wow." I tried to laugh it off. Managers taking credit happens sometimes. But then it happened again, and again. And eventually it became obvious. Daniel wasn't accidentally repeating ideas. He was deliberately taking credit for work that wasn't his. The credit stealing was annoying. But what came next was worse. Daniel had a habit of criticizing people during meetings. At first, it seemed random. Then I noticed a pattern. The criticism slowly started focusing on me. One Monday morning during a department meeting, Daniel pulled up a campaign timeline on the projector, my timeline. "Let's talk about attention to detail," he said. My stomach dropped. He circled a small formatting mistake with the mouse. "This," he said, tapping the screen, "is what happens when organization slips." 12 people turned to look at me. "It's just formatting," I said quietly. The deadlines are correct. Daniel gave a thin smile. Details matter in this industry. No one spoke. The room went silent in that uncomfortable way meetings sometimes do. And that was the moment I realized something. This wasn't constructive feedback. This was humiliation. Over the next few months, Daniel turned it into a routine. Every meeting, there was some kind of criticism aimed at me. Sometimes it was about communication, sometimes about organization, sometimes vague comments about professional standards. None of it matched reality. My projects were still on schedule. Clients still praised the campaigns, but Daniel kept building a narrative that I was the weak link. At first, I tried to ignore it. Then, it started affecting me. I began double-checking every email before sending it. I stopped speaking up during meetings. Even walking into the conference room made me anxious. There's something incredibly frustrating about being criticized publicly for things that aren't even true, and Daniel seemed to enjoy it. What Daniel didn't realize was that other people were noticing, including HR. One afternoon, I got an email asking me to stop by HR for a quick conversation. The message came from Karen Whitmore, one of the senior HR managers. When I arrived, she closed the office door and offered me a seat. "Emily," she said calmly, "I'd like to ask you a few questions about your department." My heart started beating faster. Karen explained that HR had received multiple concerns about management behavior in our team. She emphasized that I wasn't in trouble. She just wanted to understand what was happening. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I told her everything: the stolen credit, the public criticism, the strange pattern of blame. Karen listened carefully and took notes. Before I left, she said something interesting. "Thank you for explaining this," she said. "Documentation is very important." At the time, I didn't realize how important. But HR had already started looking into things. 2 weeks later, Daniel sent an email that made my stomach drop. Mandatory department meeting, 3 p.m., conference room B. The tone of the message felt aggressive. When we arrived, Daniel was already standing at the front of the room with his laptop connected to the projector. He looked irritated. "I've been reviewing project performance," he said. Then he looked directly at me, "and there are some serious concerns." The room went quiet. He opened an email thread on the screen. My name was highlighted. "This," Daniel said, "is a good example of why several campaign deadlines have slipped." I stared at the screen. The email had been completely taken out of context. "That message was about a client revision," I said carefully. "They asked to delay the launch." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Excuses don't fix problems." A few people shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, but Daniel kept going. He criticized my organization, my communication, my ability to manage timelines. Each comment was louder than the last. It felt like he was putting on a performance. Then he said the sentence that made the room go completely silent. "Honestly, Emily," he said, leaning back in his chair, "I'm starting to question whether you're even qualified for this role." You could feel the tension in the room. No one spoke, no one moved. And that's when the conference room door opened. Karen from HR walked in. Behind her were 2 other people, one HR investigator and our company's chief operating officer. Daniel blinked in confusion. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Karen looked at the projector screen, then back at Daniel. "Yes," she said calmly. "Actually, there is." She placed a thick folder on the conference table. "For the past month," she continued, "HR has been conducting a review regarding management conduct in this department." The room went completely still. Daniel laughed nervously. "I'm not sure what this has to do with today's meeting." Karen opened the folder. Inside were printed emails and internal messages. "Daniel," she said, "we reviewed over 200 internal communications." Then she pulled out a printed email, like this one. She read it aloud. It was an email Daniel had sent to a senior executive 2 months earlier, about the campaign roadmap he had presented, the same roadmap he claimed was his work. Karen read one line slowly. "Emily did an excellent job putting this together." You could actually hear someone in the room inhale sharply. Daniel's face went pale. Karen placed another document on the table. "And here," she continued, "is a message where you acknowledge that a client delayed a campaign launch." She looked at the projector screen. "Yet today, you suggested that Emily caused the delay." Daniel opened his mouth. "That's being taken out of context," he said quickly. Karen didn't react. "Then let's look at the rest of the email." She slid another printed page across the table. The COO picked it up and read it silently. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning. Daniel stopped talking. The COO slowly lowered the paper and looked directly at him. "Daniel," he said calmly, "do you want to explain why you're publicly blaming an employee for something you privately admitted was a client decision?" Daniel didn't answer. For the first time since he joined the company, Daniel Mercer looked completely trapped. The meeting ended shortly after that. HR asked Daniel to step outside with them. As he walked past the table, no one said a word. Olivia leaned toward me and whispered, "Oh my God." Honestly, I was still trying to process what had just happened. Within a week, Daniel was placed on administrative leave. 3 weeks later, he was gone. Officially, the company said he had resigned, but the truth was obvious. HR's investigation uncovered months of manipulation, credit theft, and false accusations. Apparently, several employees had reported similar issues. I had just been the most visible target. After Daniel left, something surprising happened. The entire atmosphere of the department changed, meetings became calmer, people spoke more freely, and for the first time in months, I stopped feeling nervous walking into the office. A few coworkers later told me they had spoken to HR as well. They had noticed Daniel's behavior for a long time. They just didn't realize how serious the investigation had become. 3 months later, the company hired a new director, someone who actually valued teamwork, someone who gave credit where it was deserved. And slowly, things went back to normal. Looking back now, I realize something about toxic managers. They rely on one simple assumption. They believe they control the story. Daniel thought humiliating me in front of the team would make him look powerful. Instead, it exposed exactly who he really was. Because sometimes the loudest person in the room thinks they're winning the argument, right up until the moment someone walks in with the proof.